Okay, it's the end of the session for Rocky, and we're outside. Rocky is, as you heard in some of the other videos, barking quite a bit, and so we're going to do his roadmap to success outside. Normally I'd have a dog here, but I don't think it would be a good situation here. Now, one of the things, my major concerns with Rocky is I think he has been restrained for so long. I think it's amplified a lot of his problems. I think a lot of the problems have come from a lack of structure, but probably not as, and the family's doing a really good job of exercising him, but he is a high energy dog, so I think he probably needs at least 2 hours worth of exercise a day. I think that the rollerblading would be a great way to burn his energy. Now again, you can do it, it's called urban mushing as well. You can do it with on rollerblades. My apprentice Tara uses a trike, and so it's a little bit more stability, and basically it has lines kind of like your horses. And so the dog gets to pull as much as they want, and when the dog stops pulling, that's when you turn around and come back. Or, well, for me, I'm rollerblades, I can propel myself. I guess if you're on a scooter, you can do it with your foot. So we want to look for other ways to develop burn off his excess energy. I'd like the Guardians really make sure that you get the backyard proofed. There are some areas that he can get out of the backyard, and that creates self-rewarding behavior if he can escape. And I'm also worried because he is reactive. If one of the neighbors or somebody's walking by and they have a kid, or the kid just comes up, kids sometimes throw sticks, or just they're trying to be fun with the dog, and the dog takes us in the front. We don't want a bad situation to happen. And I'd really like him to have the backyard where he can go and run freely. I think it's going to have a huge impact on his mental health. The other thing is because he likes to fetch. Fetch is an awesome way to deplete excess energy. When we're running or walking, the fastest NFL player can run 22 miles an hour. Dogs can go like 30. And so it's not a very good workout, and we can only, I'm not, very few people can run 22 miles an hour. So running is better than walking, but walking and running are good for leadership. They're not good for burning off excess energy. So rollerblading would be great, but I like the pursuit mode that the dog enters when they're doing a fetch. So if we can get the backyard done where it's proofed, and then we can take him out there and fetch, and that's a great way to do maintenance exercises, like I like to call it. So if one of the kids comes in that or is going to be around Rocky, and Rocky is not is a little bit persnickety, somebody else could take Rocky outside. Now when you go outside to fetch, count the number of fetches. Throw it, count 1, 2, not out loud, but you might find, I have a dog named Callie who's very high energy. I find if I can fetch her 42 times, it took me about 12 minutes, she would come inside and she would be wonderful. So when you're doing this, vary it up. Go outside and maybe fetch 20 times, and then maybe do that 2 or 3 times a day, and then do a journal at the end of the day. Write down how many times you exercised and how much exercise he got, then write down a grade for the overall day. That was like a C+. Okay, tomorrow we're going to try to do 325 fetches, or so on and so forth. You'll eventually come across a combination or formula where the dog feels comfortable because it has enough exercise and we've depleted enough excess energy so it can now listen to us. Now for fetch, I say fetch 3 times. As I throw the ball, I say fetch. When the dog touches the ball with his mouth, I say fetch. When it comes it to me, I hold the treat out. Now have that treat out. When the dog starts coming, as soon as it turns, you should be holding the treat and start getting lower like this and hold it out. And if you have to, touch the dog's nose. Do not chase the dog. If the dog's not interested in bringing it to you, that's fine, go back inside. Now some people will have success by having 2 or 3 balls. So if he doesn't want to give you the ball, you throw him the other ball. I would rather teach him to fetch. So when he comes back to you, hold that treat out, pop it in his mouth, or as soon as he drops it, pop it in his mouth and say the word fetch. And don't go for the item. That'll put him back in guard mode. So when you pop it in his mouth, maybe you take your foot and step on the ball. Now when you pick up the ball, if I go like this, I'm indicating to the dog that I don't think that it's mine. I'm trying to sneak one past you. So when I go pick it up, I go, I have no reason to hurry because I'm supremely confident that this ball is mine. So we want to practice that to the point where fetch is reliable for him. And that anytime that he's being persnickety, he's doing something we don't like, we can take him outside, do a quick 20-minute fetch or 10-minute fetch, however what we need to do, and burn off that excess energy, bring it back inside. This puts him in a position to succeed. Now we have a couple good videos above, but I'm also going to I should have some links to some videos above where a focus exercise. I'd like the Guardians to practice a focus exercise with him, as well as teaching him to stay. And those should be linked in the text. If they're not, please message me and I'll send you a direct link. I'd also like the family to put a heavy emphasis on petting with a purpose. That means no one in the family pets the dog under any circumstances unless the dog does something to earn it or prepays for it. So if he comes to you and nudges you, or he just comes up to you, or you just want to pet him, tell him to sit. If he's not sitting on his own, or he won't, If this is the dog's nose and here's his eyes, I hold my hand like this and I go over the head in an arcing motion. Don't just go vertical. And I see people just go like this, or they're holding the hand, they look like they're not trying to hold something. When you're holding it, cup it like you have a marble, and you should have actually a treat in your palm of your hand. So go over the dog's head in an arc. As soon as his butt hits the ground, lower your hand. He'll tilt his nose down, let him lick the treat off, say the word sit or whatever the command word is, then start tickling him under his chin. So this way, later on, when we put him in that motion, we don't have a treat, at least he gets a little bit of a reward. Also, try to put an emphasis on petting him under his chin, especially when he does desired behaviors. And a great way to do this is through what I call passive training. So every time that Rocky comes to us, we want to pet him and say, come. Every time he sits next to us, we're going to pet him and say, sit. Every time he lies down, we're going to pet him and say, crash, whatever the word is. If there are other unique things that he does, we're going to pet him when he does those and say just the command word. Don't say good dog, good sit, go potty, just potty, sit, down. And also don't baby talk. Don't say down. Let me see. We also went over rules that we can incorporate. So, well, before we do that, let me back up. I really want the humans to practice on petting with a purpose exclusively. We want to get to the point where Rocky comes and sits in front of the humans to prepay for his attention. That shows respect for him, for the human, and also it shows him the difference between I can't tell the humans what to do, I have to ask them. All right, also passive training. Anything he does desirable, we want to pet him and say what that word is. Now, rules we went over. Not being allowed on the furniture shouldn't be a big deal because he's not a big furniture dog. Not being allowed in the kitchen. Some of the rules that I would have that would normally be hard, would be a little bit difficult to enforce because he's reactive and he has a bite history. We don't want to push him. We don't want to meet force with force. But sitting before we let him in or out of a door is a great rule to start on. Start with whatever direction he wants. If he wants to be outside, start with him inside. Tell him to sit once at the door and tell him sit. If he doesn't sit within about 3 seconds, walk away. Wait 1 minute, then come back and tell him to sit again. If he doesn't sit, I walk away for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. And as soon as he puts his butt down, I open the door and let him out. Start with letting him out, then we do it letting in and out. Also look for ways to delay gratification. My next step for the door exercise is I put the dog on a leash, go to the door, swing it open. That gets the dog up out of a sit. I don't go outside, we let the door close, put him back into a sit, practice that again. Now if that big movement is too much for him, maybe I just put him in a sit and just reach for the door like this. I'm not even touching the door. Till this movement no longer gets a reaction. The next one is I jiggle the handle without opening the door. Break it down in individual steps until he can go through, he can do the whole process and he stays seated. Then we're going to let him out of the door with a release word. This is a variation of what I went through in one of the videos above about letting the dog out of a kennel in a very structured way. He can't run out of the kennel. He has to wait for humans to let him out of the kennel, but the door is open. There's nothing blocking me other than my own self-control. Let me see, we had a video where it talks about the muzzle. I make sure we're using the muzzle quite a bit in a calm situation so that he doesn't associate the muzzle means somebody's gonna come in my house. The muzzle means something's gonna happen that I don't like. We want half the time that the muzzle's on at least to be just calm and relaxed with nothing going on. And if you use the positive reinforcement I talked about in the video, you should be comfortable with that. Leashing him up. The energy your dog has on the walk is the energy he's gonna carry before the walk, during the leashing process is the energy they're gonna be on the walk. Sorry, I'm talking long. My camera person is struggling a little bit. So basically, if I'm walking, if this is where the leash is kept, I'm gonna walk towards the leash. As soon as the dog walks in front of me, I lose interest. I turn around and I go sit down. Wait for the dog to return to a completely calm and balanced state of mind before I get up and go again. It'll take a number of times, but eventually, as soon as the dog realizes, as soon as I put my nose in front of the humans, they lose interest in going for a walk, I'll stay behind them. Then if you get all the way to the walk, all the way to where the leash is kept. Now, a trick for this is do this with times where you're not planning on taking the dog for a walk. Now, just like I mentioned for the door, if the leash is right here, the next step might be just, when I get here, and the dog stays behind me, now I tell the dog to sit. Once it sits, I reach like this. I don't even touch the leash. That's gonna get him up and excited. As soon as he does it, go sit down, watch TV. Wait 1 minute, come back, try it again. Not just like 1 minute, wait as long as it takes for the dog to return to a completely calm state. The mistake a lot of people make on this one is they let the dog get somewhat calm, completely calm. Then eventually it gets to the point where you can actually pick up the leash and the dog stays seated. Now when you pick it up, actually click the trigger. Make it as hard as possible. Make it the most challenging as possible when you're in the practice setting. That way the real world situation will be easy. So once you do that and you can pick it up and attach it to the leash, now the dog is going to be in a much calmer frame of mind when it's going out on a walk. It's going to be a lot easier for them to focus and listen to things. Also feeding. I'd like the two boys that the dog does not react to grab handfuls of food, rub it through their hands into another bag, and we put that bag to the side, and that's where we feed the dog out of the food. out of that food, so it has those boys scent. And I would do it in different bags so we can alternate each boy scent for alternate meals. We're going to stop doing the free feeding. We're going to put structured feeding. Remember, when dogs eat in a group, they eat in the order of their rank. So I'm going to put the food down, and then, well, in this case, I wouldn't probably put the food down in his case. What I would do is prepare the food, have it up on the counter. Then the human goes in there and gets a carrot, a chip, something that they can eat in 5 or more bites. Then we put the food down. And once we put the food down, we invite the dog to come over. When he takes his first bite, say grub, chow, feast, whatever word you want to associate that means eat. Just for the first bite, just one time. And this will take about 2 months or 3 months before he can say feast and he'll go and eat. So once he does that, takes that first bite, you let him eat. When he gets done eating and he walks away, wait for him to walk away, pick up the bowl, dump the food out, and put the empty bowl back down. If he goes and sniffs the bowl and doesn't eat anything, walks away, pick up the bowl. As soon as he walks away from the bowl, we pick it up and dump it. And this way we're only going to have food in the bowl 2 times a day for really 6 minutes, 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes in the evening. So that's a special occasion when there's food in there. And it has the scent of the children on it, which makes him feel a little bit more of a positive association with them. So make sure that whoever's feeding him eats first. And if we can have the whole family eat first, then he eats after that, even better. Now, one of the tips I suggested was get it like an anchor. I don't know what it's called, but it looks kind of like a circle at the end of a screw. Put it in a baseboard somewhere really anchored in heavy, so we can get a leash where we tether that to the dog and to the collar, so we can put the dog there. That way the boys can feel free, feel comfortable, confident in that room. He's tethered. Now, I don't like the tethering too much, but we want the dog to practice being calm in the room with the boys. Now, we have a special needs child. If the special needs child is not having a good day, that is not a good time to practice. We only want to practice in good scenarios for Rocky. We want to give Rocky every advantage to improve. And making the situation more challenging than he's ready for is going to put him in a position to fail. Now, for the boys, if we have a good day for the special needs child or the other child, we'd like to have them both going, well, we probably alternate every other walk, but have them going out on walks with the dog. Now, at first we would have the other human here and the dog on the other side. And don't let the dog pull out in front. So everybody is in a line, nobody's in front. After about a week of doing this with that one particular person, then that person should go about 10 to 15 feet in front, and that way we're leading the dog. For dogs, whoever's in front is considered a leader. Now, if 10 feet or 15 feet in front causes the dog to bark, have the person keep moving ahead until they're far enough ahead where the dog stops barking. And eventually we want the person to get closer and closer, not close enough where the dog can lunge, but we want to create a positive association. And so that will really help. Let me see, what else? God, there was something else I wanted to go over. I'm trying to think. The counter conditioning. So, and the kennel exercise. So make sure that we're only letting the dog out of the kennel in that structured way that I have described in the video above. And then for the counter conditioning, like I said, we can actually maybe have the dog tethered and then have him chewing on the treat, looking at one of the boys that he disagrees with. Chewing on the treat, looking at one of the boys as they approach his kennel or whatever the area is. For the resource guarding, we want to kind of work on those things. I don't think, from what I saw, it didn't seem like a resource guarding situation, and I am not saying that that's not the case, because I did not get to see him out of kennel and he was very worked up. And that's actually a good thing to point out. Make sure that anytime he is above threshold, we take him away from the situation, or take whatever's triggering him away from the situation until he can calm down. And again, we want to increase the distance. So if you're on a walk and he's reacting to somebody, walk around a tree or a shrub or something. Wait, for the dog to calm down before you bring him back. Always increase the distance. And basically, the last thing, well, maybe this will be the last thing, but whenever I have a dog with a problem, I identify what the dog's problem is, what is it trying to accomplish, not the problem. And okay, the dog doesn't want somebody to be here, it's barking. Okay, so now I'm going to recreate a situation where it's easier for the dog to deal with. Maybe we bring in young male children instead of male adults, because he's more reactive to males. Careful your finger. Other finger. There we go. And so we want to, again, put him in a situation where he can succeed. The idea, what we're looking for, is to create a pattern of behavior that we like. So we'd like to have him, that's why I like the tether anchored into the wall, so the dog can be in the room with the child in a relaxed state of mind. And the child is confident knowing the dog can't get to him. This is the same benefit of having the muzzle, so the dog can't get to, even if he gets to the person, he can't do any damage to them. All right, there's probably some other things, but I want you to remember, if you have any questions, I want you to call me or text me. Texting me will be the fastest way to reach me. You have my number in your phone. And I don't care if it's 6 minutes from the time we film this video or 6 years from now, I can usually help with a quick phone call. In this case, I'm guessing that we may need to set up another session to build on what we've came up with here, but we're going to wait at least a month and see how things go. All right, this is Rocky's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.